Alright, let's journey back in time. We're not just digging for artifacts, we're digging for ideas. Imagine a people, the ancient Celts. These weren't just fierce warriors, they were deep thinkers, poets, and mystics. They looked at the world with a sense of wonder that we often lose in our modern lives. Their understanding of life and death was profoundly different from many of their contemporaries, like the Romans or the Greeks. While others saw death as a final, often grim conclusion, a shadowy underworld or a definitive end, the Celts saw something else entirely. They saw a doorway. For the Celts, the world we see, the one we touch and live in, was just one side of the coin. They believed it existed alongside another realm, a place just beyond our senses, separated by the thinnest of veils. This other place wasn't a heaven high above or a hell far below. It was right here, interwoven with our own reality. They called it the Otherworld. Death, in their view, wasn't the act of leaving life behind. Instead, it was simply the process of stepping from one room into another. It was a transition, a journey, and in many ways a homecoming to a place of magic and renewal. This perspective shaped everything about their culture, from their art to their epic stories. This belief system wasn't built on fear but on a profound sense of continuity. Think about it. If death is just a change of address, your entire outlook on life shifts. You live more bravely, you face your final moments, not with terror, but with a kind of curious anticipation. What wonders lie just beyond that misty curtain? This wasn't a morbid fascination. It was an inspiring acceptance of a natural cycle. The Celts saw this cycle everywhere, in the turning of the seasons from the life of summer to the slumber of winter, and back to the rebirth of spring. Their own existence, they reasoned, must follow the same beautiful, unending pattern. This fundamental difference in perspective is what makes delving into Celtic beliefs so compelling. It challenges our own modern anxieties about mortality. They didn't write lengthy legal codes or build massive stone monuments to their emperors. Instead, they poured their wisdom into intricate knotwork that had no beginning and no end, and into stories passed down through generations. These tales weren't just entertainment, they were maps. They were guides to understanding the soul's incredible journey, a journey that didn't stop when the heart did. It was a philosophy that embraced the great unknown with open arms and a sense of adventure. So, what was this otherworld actually like in the Celtic imagination? Forget gloomy gray afterlives, this was a place of breathtaking beauty and vibrancy. It was often described as Tir nan Og, the land of the young, a realm where no one grew old or sick. It was an eternal paradise, not as a reward for good behavior, but as the natural state of the soul's existence. Imagine endless plains of flowering meadows, forests with silver trees and golden apples, and rivers flowing with ale or milk. It was a world where music filled the air, played by otherworldly beings, and where joy was the very essence of existence. This wasn't just a place of rest, it was a place of renewal. The otherworld was seen as the source of all life and wisdom in our own world. It was from here that inspiration, poetry, and knowledge flowed. The Celts believed that the barriers between our world and the otherworld were thinnest at certain times of the year, particularly during the festivals of Samhain and Beltane. During these magical times, spirits and supernatural beings could cross over into our realm, and mortals might accidentally wander into theirs. These stories weren't meant to be terrifying ghost stories, but reminders of the deep connection between the two existences. The inhabitants of this realm were not ghosts in the way we think of them today. They were the Tuatha De Danann, a mythical race of godlike beings with incredible powers, beauty, and wisdom. They were masters of art and magic, living in a state of perpetual grace. The otherworld was their home, but it was also the destination for the souls of the most revered mortals, heroes, poets, and kings. It was a place where one could feast with legends, listen to the most beautiful music imaginable, and live in a state of perfect contentment, free from the struggles and sorrows of the mortal coil. The purpose of the otherworld was multifaceted. It was a destination for the soul, a source of magic for the living, and a fundamental part of the cosmic balance. It represented the ideal state of being, a world untouched by decay, where everything was in perfect harmony. By imagining such a place, the Celts gave themselves a powerful psychological anchor. Life's hardships seemed less daunting when you believed that a perfect, beautiful world awaited you, not as a distant, abstract heaven, but as a vibrant reality humming just alongside your own. It was a source of immense hope, and a testament to their incredibly positive spiritual outlook. The Celtic view of death as a journey is one of its most powerful and inspiring aspects. It wasn't a sudden, jarring stop, but a graceful transition. Think of it like a ship leaving a familiar harbor to sail towards a beautiful, sunlit island just over the horizon. The departure might be sad for those left on the shore, but for the person on the ship, it's the beginning of a grand new adventure. Celtic burial practices often reflected this belief. Important individuals were sometimes buried in boat-like graves, equipped with provisions and treasures not for a dark and dreary underworld, but for a voyage to a vibrant new land. This passage to the otherworld was seen as a natural part of a much larger cycle. The soul, they believed, was immortal. It did not simply die with the body. Instead, it moved on, carrying its essence and experiences with it. This concept is beautifully illustrated in countless myths and legends where heroes travel to the otherworld and return, or where spirits of the dead offer wisdom to the living. The boundary was permeable. Death wasn't a wall, it was a door that could, on rare occasions, swing both ways. This fluidity removed much of the fear and finality that so many other cultures associated with the end of life. Furthermore, this journey wasn't always a one-way trip that ended in the otherworld. The Celts also held a strong belief in reincarnation. A soul might spend time in the otherworld, a period of rest and renewal, before returning to the mortal world to be reborn into a new life. This wasn't a punishment or a consequence of karma as in some other belief systems. Instead, it was part of the natural, cyclical rhythm of existence, much like a seed that falls to the earth, lies dormant through winter, and sprouts again in the spring. Each life was an opportunity for new experiences and new growth. This belief in rebirth fundamentally changes the meaning of both life and death. If you know you will return, then every action in this life gains a different kind of significance. You are not just living for this single, finite existence, you are part of an eternal story, a soul on an epic, multi-life journey. Death loses its sting when it is seen merely as a pause between chapters. This perspective fostered a deep respect for ancestors who might one day be their descendants, and a reverence for nature, which so clearly demonstrated this endless pattern of decay, rest, and spectacular rebirth every single year. One of the most powerful stories that illustrates this cycle is the tale of the children of Lear. In this myth, a king's 4 children are transformed into swans by their jealous stepmother, cursed to spend 900 years on the lakes and seas of Ireland. Their mortal lives are taken from them, a kind of death. Yet they endure. They retain their human minds and their beautiful voices, and their story becomes a legend. At the end of their long enchantment, they are transformed back into frail old humans just as Christianity arrives in Ireland. They are baptized and die, but their souls are said to find peace, completing their long, arduous journey. This story, though sorrowful, is a perfect metaphor for the Celtic view. The children's physical forms die, but their spirits, their essence, endure through an immense passage of time. They transition from one state of being, human, to another, swan, and finally to a third, spirit. It is a journey through suffering to final peace and release. It shows that even in the face of great loss and transformation, the soul persists. Their story is not one of an ending, but of an epic cycle of change and endurance, a testament to the belief that life finds a way to continue, even if its form is altered beyond recognition. So what can we, in our busy modern world, learn from these ancient beliefs? The most profound lesson is one of hope. The Celtic worldview teaches us to see life and death not as two opposing forces, but as inseparable partners in a beautiful continuous dance. It encourages us to look at the natural world for comfort and wisdom, to see in the falling leaves of autumn not an end, but a promise of the coming spring. This perspective can help us face our own mortality and the loss of loved ones with less fear and more grace, viewing it as a transition rather than a final tragic stop. Ultimately, the Celtic belief in the otherworld reminds us that everything is connected. Life flows into death, which in turn flows back into life. The past is not gone, it lives on in stories and in the very land we walk upon. The future is not a terrifying void, but a realm of possibility and renewal. By embracing this sense of continuity, we can live our own lives more fully, appreciating each moment as part of a grand, unending cycle. It's a powerful, inspiring way to look at the universe, not as a collection of finite things but as one great, breathing, and eternal story, and we are all a part of it.